This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 87th time ever, we are live from the Reviewing Network studios. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live. Second one of the week. Of course, we were on Thursday when the drafts happened, and we're going to talk about that because it was very, very interesting. And my thoughts from night one have certainly changed in the last couple of days, specifically on a couple of things that have happened since then. One of them associated with a quarterback that was supposed to be the first round and then completely fell out all the way into round 5, actually. But again, we will get to that. We're going to mostly spend our time focusing on that as well as some other things because it was not a busy news week in terms of movies and television as a whole. Nothing really blew up or anything that I feel like was worth talking about overall. So it's going to be another one of those weeks where we're kind of just looking at stuff overall that I thought would be kind of interesting to talk about here, despite the fact there wasn't any big movie or TV news. There's an episode of a show I want to talk about that's getting a lot of attention, and then we'll look at some other things, some videos, some weird trading videos, and Microsoft Sam has another compilation of poorly aged commercials, this time from the 1970s, that we should go ahead and take a look at. But we'll delve into all those as we go along here, so there will be at least somewhat of a full show this week, despite no major news stories in the world of entertainment. But before we get to any of that, it's honestly the biggest news story in entertainment is what's going on in the box office right now, because as we are nearing the summer movie season starting next week, the box office is getting back on track, and this week was probably the best weekend they've had all year long. In fact, far from it. I think it is the best weekend for them so far this year. And with next week coming up, with the big blockbuster Thunderbolts coming, good times right now, and specifically with the number one movies. But we'll get to that in just a little bit here. So let's go ahead and get to it and start off with, we got 3 new movies in the top 5 this weekend. Well, technically 2 new movies and a re-release, which did surprisingly a lot better than people expected it to. But number 5 this week was Until Dawn from director David Sandberg, based off of the PlayStation game of the same name. It's the game that's basically a horror take on the Choose Your Own Adventure book series, where you follow a group of teenagers, and you basically have them, they have to survive all these crazy things that are going on here. But this is a different movie. This is a different standalone story, where you have a group of friends trapped in a time loop where mysterious foes are chasing and killing them in gruesome ways, and they have to survive until dawn to escape it. So the budget on this movie was only $15 million, which isn't that bad overall, and it did okay business. $8 million. Didn't do great business overall, but for the fact that, hey, $15 million it cost to make it already has made half that money back in general. That's not bad for this movie, and even the reviews for it aren't terrible. They're certainly a lot better than they were with Gran Turismo and Uncharted, which is also coming from PlayStation Productions, which is the company that put this out. And from what I've heard, it seems like the first half of it is really good, and then the second half is where it kind of falls apart in the end, which, it's a film that I think it could work. It could be very interesting to see how that plays out, but I've yet to see it. So, I mean, David Sandberg's a pretty good director. He did the Shazam movies, which I like, and Lights Out. I'll take a sip of my drink here, but yeah, not a bad weekend overall for this movie. It'll probably make his budget back overall, so Sony's good on that front, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make a sequel off of it, but I digress. Let's get to the interesting stuff here, starting off with number 4, which is a Minecraft movie, which is finally falling off, but not before leaving an impact at the box office. $22.7 million this weekend, dropping 44% from last weekend, bringing its 4-week total to $379.9 million, about $380 million pretty much. Worldwide, it's up to $816 million. So, yeah, take that for what you will. But, with that said, let's get to some of the new releases. Number 3, the sequel that somebody out there was asking for, and that is The Accountant 2, which, if I'm looking at this right, it opened up around the same area that the first Accountant movie did, because the first Accountant movie was a big hit too. And I mean, if you're gonna make the sequel, do it. I usually say do it like 3, 4, 5 years after the first movie came out, but not as long as it took them to do it. Let me see. Yeah, just about the first movie. About how much the first movie made. The first movie made $24.7 million. This one did a little bit less, $24.5 million. But I mean, I have to figure that it didn't cost that much overall to do. Although then again, it could be. I mean, let me see. Yeah, okay, it's a little bit more than the first film did. The first film, I think, was $44 million. It's now $80 million. So they're really going to have to depend on worldwide grosses for this to probably make its money back overall. I saw the film last night, and I don't know. I didn't like it as much as everybody else did. I felt like Ben Affleck and John Barenthal's chemistry was the one thing that was holding it together, but if we're being honest, I would have liked to have seen it in another movie, not based off of a sequel to a film that really didn't need a sequel to begin with. None of these movies are really that good. Like, the cast is what I think holds it overall, the direction overall, but the script is absolutely abysmal on both of these movies. The story makes no sense whatsoever. And yeah, Ben Affleck and John Barenthal are the best things about this movie, but at the same time, it's just like, what's the point? Like, why are we putting them in a sequel when we can have them just be in a solo movie instead of just doing the same thing all over again? It just makes no sense to me. But hey, it's made its money, so I don't think it's going to make its budget back overall here in the States. I think it really has to depend on the worldwide grosses for it to really make its money back overall. But again, I could be wrong on that. Maybe this is exactly the opening they were looking for, and I don't know. Maybe that's just me overthinking it. But here's the shocker this week. We kind of figured it was going to do big, but not this big. Number 2, and that is Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, the 20th anniversary re-release, which did $25.2 million, which actually makes it one of the highest grossing re-releases of all time. I think it actually surpassed The Lion King when it was re-released in 2011. Because remember, they had the 3D re-release of that, and that did really well. Let's see. How much did it do? Second behind that, this is second behind that, $30.2 million The Lion King did, so $25.2 million. Still, for a movie like this to make that much money without a big marketing push overall, and they're just going to see a classic Star Wars movie, I mean, more power to them, man. They did a really good job of selling that movie in a way that wasn't really marketed all over television or anything. It's just like people knew it was coming, so they went to go see it, and it did pretty well. If you include worldwide numbers, it's up to $42.2 million, and adding to the total of all the releases together, this actually puts it now close to $900 million worldwide when you take in the original release gross and then the May the 4th marathon and the 20th anniversary release together, $892.2 million worldwide. So I think they said it's a 1 week only thing, but seeing as how it's still hanging around in there, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing sticks around for a little bit, even though it'll probably be it's probably more likely going to be front loaded for completely, so most of the money's coming this weekend. But I mean, regardless, $25.2 million ain't nothing to shake about for a film that's been out for 20 years now, and people wanted to see it on the big screen. So, but that leads us into the biggest movie release of the biggest movie this week, and that is, of course, the number 1 movie, which is, of course, Sinners. And boy, this movie has done unbelievably well. Now, if you remember, this movie cost $90 million to make, and Warner Brothers wasn't ready to celebrate or anything just yet. They wanted to see if the movie could do very well, and, you know, everyone was wondering what was going to happen with Pam Abdi and Michael DeLuca, who were about to lose their jobs but then April comes around, and then you have a Minecraft movie in this film, and lo and behold, this weekend it brought in $45 million, which, if you remember last week, the final total was $48 million after the estimates came in. So this thing only dropped 6.3%. which is unbelievable for not only a movie without a franchise name attached to it, but not just an original movie, an original horror film did this well. I mean, the word of mouth on this movie really is helping this film make a ton of money that nobody was really expecting it to do. I mean, after only a 6% drop-off, the movie has brought in $122.5 million domestically, but worldwide it's at $161.6 million. That is unbelievable for this movie, especially with everything that had going against it. I mean, this is incredible stuff here. This is an absolute breakout hit. I mean, this is the biggest hit we've had in a long time. And let me see if I can find the second weekend drop numbers here, because I'm kind of curious. Can't really find the smallest second week drops on Box Office Mojo anymore because they make it so difficult to find them. But I did find them, and this is pretty good. This is a pretty impressive slow, low drop off for this movie. Like, it's right now it would be in between Crazy Rich Asians with 6.4% of a drop off from the previous week to 8% from Alvin and the Chipmunks The Road Trip back in December 2015. Like, it's right in the middle of there. But you look at these other movies that have smaller drop-offs. Most of them are holiday numbers, like True Grit, Avatar, Puss in Boots, Bumblebee, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. You don't really get a whole lot of these type of drop-offs outside of the holiday movie season. I think the only one I see on here is three of them actually. Mother's Day, which had a 32% gain from its April 29, 2016 release. Hard Eyes this year had a 19% increase from its first weekend this past February. Let's see, where's the other one? Oh, Shrek, another one in here. Shrek had a 0.3% increase from the weekend after its first release. Crazy Rich Asians, as I mentioned before. Yeah, most of these are October, November, December. You don't see anything outside of the month of in between January and September. So this is a rare feat for this movie to do as well as it has been doing. So you got to give a lot of credit to Warner Brothers for letting Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan cook. And lo and behold, it creates this box office bonanza that I'm going to be very interested to see how it works in terms of when we get to the blockbusters coming up, because we have Thunderbolts coming out next week, which, I mean, could do very well, but it also could be kind of an underperformer. I don't know. It's really hard to say because the numbers right now are not really... We have to wait for the word of mouth to come from the critics overall. Because, yeah, there's word of mouth right now from, the fan reactions after they got to see the movie first after the premiere. So you really can't go by that. I've learned that now, so... We all have to wait to see what happens on May 2nd when that comes out. Should do well enough to potentially sneak into the number one spot overall. And then I'm just going to be very interested to see how far Sinners drops off. If that word of mouth will continue even after Thunderbolts opens up or what. But regardless, Sinners is doing very well for itself. It's a big box office bonanza, and it's deserved. It's the best movie that came out this year, no question about it. And it's a terrific film. Terrific film. I think I pretty much said everything I need to say about that one. So let's go ahead and get to the NFL draft, because I'll start off with some thoughts on myself after the draft on Thursday night. So the NFL draft, you might have remembered when we last met on the show back on Thursday night, I was feeling very underwhelmed and very disappointed by the fact that my team, Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that I used to know as my team, but they didn't draft Shedeur Sanders when they had an opportunity to go get him. And I thought to myself that, wow, they're really going to do this again. They passed on Lamar Jackson, they passed on Jalen Hurts, and now they're passing on Shedeur Sanders. And at the time, I was upset. I wouldn't say a little upset, I would say very upset. But let's look at it this way. It's amazing what 3 days will do to make you realize that, I have to give some apologies to the Pittsburgh Steelers, because, man, did you dodge a bullet. I think they really did dodge a bullet with Shedeur Sanders. But we'll save that for a separate segment overall. But Here's what I will say, though. I mean, here's the thing. I don't even know how to start this off. I naturally was very upset with the pick of, defensive tackle Derek Harmon. Yeah, because at the time, yeah, I think most people who wanted the quarterback, and weren't working with these 32 teams in their front offices, would have immediately assumed that, hey, Pittsburgh's going to have an opportunity to draft Shedeur Sanders at some point during this, and they never did. Not only did they never do it, but all the other quarterback-needy teams didn't do it either. I mean, there were literally teams that went even below the other quarterbacks that were there to go and get him. But again, we'll save that for another segment. But I bring this up because I may have been frustrated with the fact that he signed Derek Harmon on the night of the draft, but then my mood changed a little bit when I had some more time to think about it, and more than ever, the moment when I realized that the kid that they got had it was supposed to be his big night, and then it ended up not working out that well because we later found out that Derek Harmon's mother died just after he got selected by the Steelers. They pulled her off of life support. She had suffered a stroke during her freshman year at Michigan State, and she was on life support when Harmon was drafted by the Steelers and died shortly after he came to the hospital to tell her about the selection. So you see this sometimes in movies where, the hero comes out and just like, I finally accomplished a mission. I'm going to go see my mentor who's in the hospital, celebrate, and tell him about it and celebrate it. And then you walk in there and you realize that she's no longer with you anymore. And the part that really hurts the most about this is, of course, the fact that this is his mother. This is his mother who passed away. And something I didn't find out until I watched ESPN is the night of the second round. His mother was only 43 years old when she died. Just to put it into perspective for you, I'm 36 years old. There's a 7-year difference between me and her, and I was just taken aback by that because it's just like, oh my god, like, I'm getting up there and I'm getting close to being that age. It's just like, I mean, it's weird how time flies, but, obviously this is not about me. This is about Derek Harmon and his mother, and I didn't say anything bad about the kid whatsoever on Thursday night, and if I did, I apologize for that, but yeah, I was upset they didn't take Shedeur Sanders, but you know what? Considering what had just happened and the fact that this was a need that the Steelers needed more than Shedeur Sanders, because it wasn't until long after that I was online, and a lot of people who were against the idea of them drafting Shedeur Sanders basically said, here's the reason why they drafted Derek Harmon. They showed the picture from the playoff game where Derrick Henry was just running all over the Steelers' defense during that game. It's just like, okay, now I can see why you need to draft him, because, yeah, we don't need a repeat of that per se. In fact, the draft overall for the Steelers wasn't bad. I mean, all things considered, it could have been a whole lot worse. They got their running back to replace Najee Harris. And again, I hate they got rid of Najee Harris, especially considering that, especially now that the Chargers drafted another running back in the first round with Omarion Hampton, which, why the hell did you do that when you paid Najee Harris all that money? But they got Caleb Johnson, from the running back from Iowa, which, I mean, I saw the stuff afterwards. I mean, he looks like he could fit that mold very well. He's like Najee Harris, except at least he'll be able to go through his career here without having that blemish of being the first round running back. It's just like, which is not really a big deal whatsoever, no matter what anybody in this town tells you. But then they got more help on the defensive side of the ball. They got the guy who, basically helped Ohio State beat Texas in the college football, the semifinals against Texas. Jack Sawyer. They grabbed him in the fourth round, get some more defensive help. They did eventually sign a quarterback in Will Howard, who won the national championship with Ohio State. And it's just like, okay, I mean, at the very worst, what this does for the Steelers overall, if they go into the season with Aaron Rodgers as their starting quarterback, and a quarterback room that features Mason Rudolph and also Will Howard, it just essentially means that, hey, there's a better chance of them potentially grabbing one of those top quarterbacks coming up in the next year's draft, because this year's draft overall was not really all that impressive when you really look at it. I mean, even the first overall pick was nothing all that interesting. Cam Ward, this has got to be the luckiest first overall pick ever, because the spotlight was not on him, basically. When he got picked, it was something that everyone was kind of expecting. Everyone was expecting him to go as the number 1 pick, and it really took a lot of the pressure off of him, really, because nobody was really batting an eye to him in particular. All the focus was mostly set on the other quarterbacks in this draft: Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers. Again, taking a sip of my drink there, but excuse me, Cam Ward, he had the luckiest thing in the whole part of the whole night. His night was done almost immediately, and nobody really was just like putting the spotlight on him. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was a great quarterback in Miami. I think he'll have a decent career in the NFL. I don't think he's the big game changer that everyone else was saying about Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels last year. The quarterback it should tell you when only 2 quarterbacks go in the first round, and there's a lot of flashbacks to 2022 when QB wasn't taken until 20th overall that year, and there was a guy named Kenny Pickett, who's now a Cleveland Brown. I don't know which team drafted him first of all, but wink, wink. But really, the big is what was interesting about this whole thing was that the second pick, I think, was the most exciting pick of the night, because the Jacksonville Jaguars moved up to go get him, to go get Travis Hunter, who really is the best overall player in this draft class. Like, he's the one that can be he's the quarterback, he's a wide receiver, like somebody that works on both sides of the field. I mean, that's a guy that can really elevate a team, and the Jaguars really needed somebody to elevate their team, and they got it on both sides of the field. And the fact that they traded with Cleveland, of all people, to go get him was something interesting, because Cleveland basically traded a first, 4th, and 6th round pick this year to Jacksonville in exchange for a 1st, 2nd, and 4th round selection this year, as well as a 2026 first round pick. So Cleveland has 2 first round picks that it can work with here. So let's just say that their quarterback situation doesn't work out. They can use that first round pick to maybe move up to number 1 to get somebody like an Arch Manning or something. Everybody else, though, was kind of like, yeah, we kind of figured you were going to go there. Abdul Carter went to the Giants. Will Campbell went to the New England Patriots. Ashton Genty went to the Raiders. They were expecting him to go. There were kind of some surprises. There were surprises by the fact that the Jets didn't take Tyler Warren. The Carolina Panthers took Ted McMillan, who was the top wide receiver, but after Travis Hunter, which I thought that was kind of an interesting deal. New Orleans didn't sign a quarterback, even though there was all this stuff coming out about Derek Carr potentially not playing this year, with him still recovering from the injuries that he had. But they took an offensive tackle instead for the guy that they would eventually draft later on, Tyler Skoo, in the 2nd round. But most of the draft picks this year were not really that surprising in general. I think after Travis Hunter, the only other ones that were really surprising was the fact that New York took the Giants took Jackson Dart to be basically the new Daniel Jones, and actually gave the Houston Texans a 1st round selection next year to go ahead and do that. Actually, no, that's not true at all. The Rams are the one who gave up a 1st round pick to the Falcons for next year's draft. So the Rams are another team that has a first. Atlanta has a team that has a 1st round selection. Wait, let me see here. I'm reading this wrong here. LA Rams traded 1st and 3rd round selections to Atlanta in exchange for 2nd and 7th round selections and a 2026 1st round selection. So, yeah, the Rams get 2 1st round picks next year. I was right before. I think I was right on that, but yeah, Jackson Dart going to the Giants. I mean, I made fun of him for the fact that he basically looked like Logan Paul, which he does kind of look like a Logan Paul type of guy, but hey, he's going into a good system in New York. He's got 2 veteran quarterbacks in there with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. He doesn't have to start right away. He can build within the first year, and then when Wilson and Winston eventually go, he can step into the starting role next year. I mean, nobody's expecting him to be the starter this year. Green Bay got their first wide receiver in the 1st round in over 20 years, and they made a big deal out of that. That was a cool moment, seeing Matthew Golden get that big applause from the Green Bay home crowd there. Green Bay had a big audience there. I mean, it literally felt like a rock concert. I think they said 600,000 people in total were there over the course of that weekend. I don't know if that was just on night 1 or something, but I mean, that's how big of a deal that whole thing was. That Green Bay was there, and it just gives Pittsburgh a lot of things to fill in to try to top what Green Bay did there. It's going to be tough to do, but I think they could be able to do it overall. But other than that, though, the rest of the draft overall was really nothing that spectacular. No real big shockers, nothing really that amazing, with the one exception I'm going to get to in a little bit here. But overall, the draft kind of went how most people kind of saw it going for the most part, except for, let's get to that elephant in the room. What happened with Shedeur Sanders? Which, yeah, that's something that needs to be studied, because the more you hear about it, the more fascinating and the more unbelievable it gets. Alright, so let's get to what everyone wants to talk about. Shedeur Sanders. What the hell happened? Why did he fall as low as he did? Because he fell. Like, this was a guy that was supposed to be somewhere in the first round, like in the top. It's like they had him as high as maybe the third overall pick when the Giants were on the clock, or maybe even as high as 2, because Cleveland was going to be on the clock shortly afterward. I mean, for somebody that was supposed to go as high as 3, did anybody expect him to drop as low as 144th in the 5th round of all people? Like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how low he fell. And, of course, NFL Network and ESPN were going to be all over this. NFL Network because, of course, Deion Sanders, his father, was a member of the NFL Network team for so many years before he went into the world of coaching. And he eventually went on to become the Jackson State head coach, and then following that, of course, where he's at right now in Colorado. But ESPN, like Mel Kiper, man, I swear to God, Mel Kiper really thought like Shedeur Sanders falling down was like the equivalent of the NFL's equivalent to 9/11. Like, he was really like distraught by it. Like, he couldn't believe it. We'll get to that in just a moment, but here is the moment when it happened, when Shedeur Sanders was finally drafted at 144 overall, which I think it's hilarious because the image I'm looking at right now, Jaguar Gator 9 was at the NFL draft. He got some footage, and one of the first images that came out when Shedeur Sanders was drafted was the image of, the podium, and you see the dog boat in the background, but it literally looks like one half of it is like balls. Like, it literally looks like a nutsack. Like, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but someone in Cleveland should have double-checked that. But we're going to watch this and show you the moment he finally got drafted.
Here's the Cleveland Browns pick. Is this the moment?
Well, gee, I wonder. It literally says in the title, Rich Eisen and the NFL Network react to the Cleveland Browns drafting Shedeur Sanders. Like, why even include that part? But anyway.
The Seattle Seahawks have traded
Actually, hold on a second. Let's go back for a second, because I just noticed the camera angle turning around. Let me slow this down and see if I can see something here, because I think people would have already figured out if they were watching at home if this was going to be him. But then again, keep in mind I'm watching this on a computer screen, which on a high definition television, I think people could have seen maybe that was the pick they were going to go with, but actually no, because I remember now, this was actually a trade with somebody. I can't remember. I think it was the Minnesota Vikings who traded for that pick. So you know how they do a trade, they have 2 cards, and the other one is the one where, that's where they announce the pick. So maybe I'm just overthinking stuff here, but anyway.
The Seattle Seahawks
yeah, it's 2 cards.
Traded the 144th pick to the Cleveland Browns. With the 144th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado.
Listen to the reaction.
Now, of course, the Cleveland fans like it because they're delusional, even though they drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round. So how's that supposed to work? But let me see if I can. I want to try to find. Oh, here it is. Because it's funny. Because when it actually happened, the Sanders family was very happy, which is good. I'm glad to see that they got what they wanted, even though his father kind of screwed him over on that. We'll get to that in just a second, but they're going to show in this, about 2 minutes in, they're going to show the Cleveland Browns front office. And I just want you to take a look at everybody in that room and just watch the faces of these people who just made this decision.
To how many different times Cleveland passed on him?
we might be just getting an idea of where Cleveland had it ranked.
I mean, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and Jimmy Haslam are looking at this, and yeah, they're applauding like they're glad they made the move and all that, but none of them on their faces look like they're happy with the decision that they made. It feels like they had to take the pick because people wouldn't shut up about Shedeur Sanders if nobody picked him, and but the only guy who was really happy about this decision was the dude on the far left who looks like an older version of Matthew McConaughey really, when you look at him. But it's just like, yeah, Jimmy Haslam, Kevin Stefanski, and Andrew Berry do not look very happy with this pick here, especially when you consider that, yes, they already drafted a quarterback at 94 with Dylan Gabriel. So, I mean, and if you're Shedeur Sanders, you should be glad you got drafted, but you shouldn't be glad you got drafted to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, really, have you seen what the Cleveland Browns have done with quarterbacks where, you know, they've, in the last 25 years, they thought they were going to be the next big thing? You know, Tim Couch, Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel. The best quarterback the Cleveland Browns ever had was Baker Mayfield, and they got rid of him for no other reason because, oh, we want Deshaun Watson, and look at how well he turned out. So yeah, I don't think anybody in this room really is that happy they got Shedeur Sanders, which I have nothing bad against Shedeur Sanders. I mean, like I said, I wanted the Steelers to draft him when they were in the first round, but let's get to the reason of why he might have fallen out, because there was a lot of rumblings beforehand that Deion Sanders basically was running the show and all the pre-interviews, and essentially that was part of the reasoning of why Shedeur Sanders fell out of the top, the first five, near the first four. It's pretty much out of the first four rounds, and it basically was like all this weekend. That was the big story overall. Like, why is he dropping down? Why is he not being drafted at all? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. Like, Mel Kiper was the one who was really just like he was like going off on ESPN about them not drafting Shedeur Sanders. I mean, he literally had a meltdown. I got it right here. Let me see if I can get it.
History of NFL draft drops, let me tell you, the Shedeur Sanders free fall might take the cake. Not a single team selecting in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft took the Colorado quarterback. The Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year and son of Deion led the FBS in completion percentage, 4th in passing yards. Just a couple months ago was in the conversation for the top pick. Heck, right before the draft started on Thursday, he was minus 600 to go in the first round, and yet he is still out there. A shock. Meanwhile, there were 3 other quarterbacks taken on day 2 of the NFL draft, including that guy, Tyler Shuck, out of Louisville. First one off the board to New Orleans, making him the highest drafted quarterback to the Saints.
Okay, this must have been night 2. Let me see if I can find here's the meltdown right here from night 2.
With this 5th player on my board, it's never happened before in 47 years where a player that high has dropped this far into the 4th round. A quarterback that's sitting there in round 4 with other quarterbacks being taken who aren't as good as Shedeur, aren't even close, in my opinion, in terms of accuracy, toughness. Arm strength is certainly more than good enough. I don't see, outside of not being have the rocket arm and the 4.6 speed and the big frame, the 6'3", 230-pound frame, what is he lacking? Somebody's going to have to explain that one to me. 4th round, Kirk Cousins went. 4th round, Dak Prescott went. Worked out pretty good for them. It's just that Shedeur was projected a lot higher than they were. That's why we're having this discussion.
Indeed, sports.
I mean, you would always swear that Mel Kiper was really Shedeur Sanders' father, not Deion, because when he finally got drafted, it continued on Saturday.
And you look at the sliders, right? The guys that slid. The NFL gets it. They know everything. No, they don't, because the guys that slid have done really well. Geno got into the 2nd round. He's doing pretty well.
And I love this. They're showing this slide of the notable quarterback slides. Geno Smith was ranked 16th on Mel's list. Jimmy Clausen, 7th. Brady Quinn, 5. Aaron Rodgers, 7. Chad Pennington, 4. Brett Favre, 4. Boomer Esiason, 3. And Dan Marino, 18. The bottom line here is that Mel Kiper ain't always right all the time, and the fact that I paraphrased him when the Steelers didn't take him, I'm probably regretting that decision. But still, I made that choice, and I will stick by it, even though I don't believe, even though I could take it down, which I probably will after this. But anyway, this isn't about me. This is about Mel Kiper.
Right.
Who the hell is Mel Kiper anyway?
But then Aaron Rodgers, Chad Pennington went 18. Brett Favre, 2nd round. Boomer Esiason, 2nd round. Dan Marino, late 1st round, and now you have a situation with Shedeur dropping to the 5th round. Tom Brady, everybody said, okay, this is what, a 6th round pick. The Tom Brady was drafted.
Let's not compare him to Tom Brady, because like Tom Brady is that rare thing that the NFL wants to try so hard to capture the magic with. They're doing that with Brock Purdy right now. We don't need to do this to Shedeur Sanders. I mean, okay, he fell down to the fifth round. Okay, it's a big deal, but stop hyping this kid up to a point where you're hyping him up to the point where if he doesn't deliver at this point as a fifth rounder, then he's considered a bust overall. It's just like it makes no sense whatsoever. Like, let's keep going.
There was a quarterback who went 18th. That was Chad Pennington. The quarterback went in the third round. That was Giovanni Formaggi from Hockey. When Tom Brady got there, what did he tell Robert Kraft? They told him, hey, you're a sixth-round pick. He said, yeah, you're the best decision your organization ever made. And me, right? So talk about, are you confident, cocky, are you arrogant, or are you charismatic? There's that fine line there. I think there's a lot of respect and isn't reality in regards to Shedeur and Deion. Deion's not going to interfere. Deion's not going to be calling the coach. Deion's not going to be commenting about Shedeur while he's in Colorado. Lou, I think there's a lot of just fake news out there surrounding the Sanders family and Shedeur and Deion.
Yeah, look, if you get out of your feelings, I'm saying people who have feelings about Shedeur Sanders,
And there are lessons to be learned on both sides. I mean, clearly something happened that made NFL teams not want to do it. So now, what can he take from that? He can take his opportunity now, become a starter early in his career, which is probably closer to something that they had envisioned all along. They just didn't.
I'm trying to find the clip where he actually is talking. I think I found it here.
Guy, if in fact you think that can happen quickly. Offensive line, that's critical for Shedeur. Said it when Tom Brady was taken. The offensive line's got to protect him. He's got to have that fortress in front of him, as Brady did, allowed him to have that success. You think about what he had in Colorado. He dealt with adversity. He dealt with a muddy pocket. He done it with everything NFL conditions lead you to have to deal with once you get to the pro level. Then you think about the character. I think this is the misperception. I think the fact of the matter is Deion was a great teammate. Deion practiced hard. They loved him in the NFL. They loved him with the Atlanta Braves in Major League Baseball. Shedeur, he will galvanize. He'll be that kind of guy. So again, the offensive line, if you're talking about the Cleveland Browns, that's the issue, guys. If they can't protect him, obviously get the weapons, but up front is where they got to be strong. Allow him to do his job. He will be a surgeon. He will pick you apart. I mean, you give him short time. He sees the field. He's accurate to all levels, and he is a tremendous competitor, incredibly tough. So again, durable. I haven't all the hits he took and never got hurt. Okay, and he had a running game. Not mention offensive line. He had no running game. So he was out there, and he led them to a winning year. He led them to an upset over TCU when he first got there, first game. Then the wheels came off. That Stanford game with the second half lead, the lead was won at the half. Shedeur Sanders, to me, when you talk about the locker room, the players around him, they love him. Now, the perception from others outside, based on what the noise, maybe they didn't like what they heard. I don't know how it was handled. You get all the word about this, that, you think, well, they're just trying to hurt Shedeur. Teams are throwing it out there. You don't know what was true, what wasn't. How Deion's going to operate. Deion's going to stay out of it. That's going to be calling or threatening any coaches or saying, or there'll be a threat to.
I don't think Deion needs to do anything about it. You're basically saying more than he is, because you're basically his father at this point. Because, like, he went on for the next. This goes on for 5 more minutes. Like, he was pissed when nobody took Shedeur Sanders until 144th overall. It's just like, dude, there were red flags before this even happened. Like the Rich Eisen, like whenever NFL Network had the draft on, they were basically following this, and you know, it makes sense for them to be a little bit more, how do I want to put it, a little bit more to it, because Deion Sanders worked at NFL Network for so many years. He was a part of that team, and you know, he was a part of that system. So it made sense for them. But Mel Kiper, I swear to God, he really must think Shedeur Sanders is going to be the next Tom Brady with the way that he's talking up this guy. And it's just like you're putting more and more pressure on this kid to do well. And really, let's just get to the reason why Shedeur Sanders probably fell off. He fell off not because of. That's one of the things I really didn't like about the whole conflict there. I mean, they were saying that, oh, it's a race thing, you know, oh, it's because of his attitude and his attitude at Colorado and all that type of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, he may have had that in the press in the pre-interview thing, but it doesn't help when your father is literally next to you in those interviews. Like, you listen to some of the thoughts coming out of the pre-interviews, and you would swear that they make it seem like Deion Sanders was literally there, basically saying, "Here's where you want me. Here's where you're going to draft me at. Here's where I want to go. Here's the money I want." And Like, that's what I keep hearing. A lot of the people saying that, there's this whole thing about how he associated himself in these pre-draft interviews, and of course, a lot of teams really were against that idea, even though the Steelers supposedly had a great 5-hour meeting with him. It did. Guess what? It didn't really amount to anything. They didn't pick him. So, but let's just get to the real reason why he fell. It wasn't because of race. It wasn't because of anything like that. And I think the one person who really made a whole lot of sense out of this was, of all people, Jonathan Jones from CBS Sports. When second round, it was the second day of the draft. I was watching, and they saw a video from an NFL insider on CBS News, and it was Jonathan Jones, and he gave, honestly, the best reasoning for why he fell. So let me go ahead and link this up to here. So I think it starts right here.
Yes. What you are not going to tell me.
There we go. We'll start it back.
Insider Jonathan Jones. JJ, we did not expect to be here, but here we are. Tell me what you're hearing from around the league, how we got here.
This, Joe, is a repudiation by the NFL of how Shedeur Sanders and those around him handled the entire NFL draft process. What you are not going to tell me, or really anyone who watches football, is that Shedeur Sanders is a worse quarterback than Dillon Gabriel, who was selected in the third round of the NFL draft. Look, I didn't think that Shedeur Sanders was going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. I thought, and in talking with teams, they told me that he was a second-round quarterback. Second round comes around. I start calling around today. At the start of the draft, I learned he's probably not going to go in the top 10 of the second round. Okay, that's fine. At some point in there, in talking with NFL evaluators, they believed that at some point in the second round, he would eventually be selected in the second round. Then the third round comes. And as we know, of course, he's not selected at all on Friday night. And so when you look at this, you see that Shedeur Sanders was clearly talented enough to be selected in the top 5 when it comes to quarterbacks, right? He was a top 5 quarterback in this year's class. Not a great class, not a class that had many first rounders, but he was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in this NFL draft. You're not going to convince me otherwise of that. But the difference here is how he and those around him handled the draft process. Let's go back even a year ago when his father, Deion Sanders, one of the greatest athletes of modern times, was saying, look, we might pull an Eli, which, of course, he was referring to how Eli Manning ultimately didn't go to the San Diego Chargers and then engineered, along with his father, a way to go to the New York Giants 2 decades ago. And then his tune changed over the next year, right?
So I stopped it right there because that's something that we need to bring up here. The fact that it's his father, Deion Sanders, that started it by saying that, well, we might just pull an Eli. And of course, talking about how Eli Manning didn't want to go to the Chargers, but they were able to find a deal with the Giants, and they swapped quarterbacks, and how that went. But the big difference is between that, back then, there was already another Manning in the NFL at that point, Peyton Manning. There wasn't any other Sanders in the NFL except for Deion, and Deion had been out for years. And the fact that, everyone looks at Deion Sanders and everyone thinks of him as the guy, the cocky guy who thinks he's better than everybody else. I mean, prime time. I mean, he's a great two sport player. Like he played in the Major League Baseball, of course, in the NFL, and he was successful for a little bit there. And he's one of the great defensive backs of all time. But at the same time, it's just like the way that he was trying to maneuver his son to be this great first round talent overall, like that's a dangerous thing for your parent to get involved like that, because you could have what happened with Eli Manning and Peyton Manning, or you could end up having what happened to Todd Marinovich, which is very convenient because we just had that trailer for him come out, which basically looks like the horror version of that story, where, his father basically was trying to create, Tom Marinovic's father was trying to create a super quarterback, like the greatest quarterback prospect of all time, and he would do these things that seemed like child abuse pretty much, but he was doing it for his son because he wants to him to become the greatest quarterback of all time, and he ended up faltering out big time because he didn't have a childhood, and he basically resented his father for basically ruining his family because of that. I mean, that's something that Deion Sanders was really, really close to doing, like literally destroying his son's reputation before it even had a chance to get going. Like, it's something that we need to keep in mind in this whole thing, because Deion is a main reason of why Shedeur Sanders fell as much as he did.
But then what continued to happen? He would tweet after every Las Vegas Raiders loss, "Thank you, God." And it seemed like the Raiders were destined for the number 1 overall selection. It seemed like he was trying to engineer his way to the number 1 pick on a team that was co-owned by Tom Brady. And then the New York Giants, maybe they get the number 1 pick, or they're going to be up top. And so he has the New York Giants colored cleats. And then we get to the combine, and no, he does not throw, which is not uncommon for top quarterbacks these days. But in some of those meetings, and we reported this at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, at some of those meetings with certain teams that maybe Shedeur Sanders didn't really want to go to, didn't see himself going to for any number of reasons. Maybe they had a starting quarterback installed there. I was told that he more or less sandbagged in those interviews. I don't know if he didn't take them seriously, what it was, but he did not give it his all in some of those interviews. Rubbed some teams the wrong way. And so then you continue where it was a pro day that frankly was just sort of average. I'm not saying it was bad. It wasn't great. It was average. And so more and more continues. He gets his jersey number retired. His father retires his jersey number at Colorado. That is something that's really just not seen in major college football, how quickly it was done, and considering the lack of accolades in his career.
Which before he continues, I just want to say that he brought up the whole thing about, Deion retiring his son's jerseys. And, of course, the Steelers had Cordell Stewart, who was a quarterback at Colorado, was also a wide receiver as well, to slash the rest around here. And, more I thought about it, maybe grabbing Shedeur Sanders would probably look like a bad thing for the Steelers if they basically did that to Cordell Stewart, because Cordell Stewart never had his jersey retired, even though many people would say that he's one of the better Colorado quarterbacks they've ever had. But yeah, I thought about that after I heard this for the first time. But anyway, back to Jonathan Jones.
All of these things began to add up for teams, and I'm not saying that is right that it added up for teams. What I'm saying is it did clearly add up for teams, because you're not going to tell me that the guy who was on the field the last 2 years for Colorado wasn't good enough to be selected by the end of the second night, wasn't good enough to be selected over a Dillon Gabriel, with all due respect to Dillon Gabriel. So this is clearly a way for the NFL and its teams to let him and anyone else after him know you can't comport yourself in this way moving forward.
It certainly feels like a...
See, that's what I thought was most interesting about this. He didn't bring up race or anything like that. It wasn't like another Colin Kaepernick type of scenario, even though that's what I heard a number of different people say, which is just like, you can't compare those two things to one another. I mean, this is just like, it's ridiculous. Like, for God's sakes, Donald Trump came out after the first round and tweeted about Shedeur Sanders. It's just like, this was the guy that lost his shit at Colin Kaepernick for kneeling during the national anthem. He's part of that group that hated him for kneeling during the national anthem. Hated NFL players for doing the national anthem, and yet he's the one who's defending Deion's son. Like, I mean, how are you supposed to connect that one to the other? I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. But I like the point that they're making here. They tried to do this draft proceedings their own way, and it backfired on them spectacularly. Like, the NFL and these teams didn't do it because of race or anything like that. They did it to teach Deion's son a lesson. And not even his son, but his dad a lesson. Like, yeah, you were one of the greatest players to ever play our league, but you know what? You're not going to change the way we do things around here, buddy. No matter how hard you think you could try to, yeah, it's not going to work that way.
Because we had to day 3, penance paid if penance was required here. And maybe there is something to be said about the third day and thanking God, because Vegas is still the one we might have circled, JJ. When might that appetite return for Shedeur Sanders on day 3, if at all?
It's funny. I honestly thought for a second that he really was going to be Mr. Irrelevant because nobody was going to draft him. I thought maybe that he would literally become the next Mr. Irrelevant or even go undrafted. I mean, that was literally what it was feeling like that is on that when that third day happened.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the question, Joe, and I know that you have to ask the question, and you also know, because you've sat here and you've watched this as well, and you, I have to assume, have thought, well, he's going to go at some point, and he hasn't. So I'd love to be able to be the lead NFL insider at CBS Sports and tell you exactly where he's going to go on Saturday. I don't know. I mean, go down the list right here, right? You knew that Tennessee wasn't going to take him at 1. You knew they were going Cam Ward. Okay. Cleveland, they had 5 picks, and they did not take Shedeur Sanders, right? Their quarterback room was Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and an injured Deshaun Watson, who may never play football for the Cleveland Browns again. And with their 5th selection overall in their draft, they took Dylan Gabriel. The Pittsburgh Steelers, right? How much did Mike Tomlin just talk up Shedeur Sanders earlier this week? They've had a couple of picks so far, did not take Shedeur Sanders. Surely they know something about Aaron Rodgers and how he is ultimately going to come to Pittsburgh. Point being, they talked up Shedeur Sanders a lot for someone that they didn't think was worthy of a top 90 pick when they had 2 of them. The New York Giants, of course, passed on him at 3, then traded future capital to trade up to get Jackson Dart, even though they had been scouting Shedeur Sanders for 2 years. The New Orleans Saints, they had 2 picks, and then at number 40 went with Tyler Shuck, 25 going on 26-year-old quarterback with uncertainty with Derek Carr. You have the Seattle Seahawks, right, who went out there with 4 picks, and out on their 4th pick, went out and got Jalen Milroe. Probably has a higher ceiling than Shedeur Sanders. Now, probably definitely does. Who knows if we will ever reach that ceiling for him. And so you mentioned the Las Vegas Raiders. They've picked 5 times. They've passed on him every single time.
And the funniest thing about the Raiders is that in the 6th round, they literally drafted back-to-back quarterbacks. And it was Tommy Millard from Montana State and Cam Miller from North Dakota State. They took 2 quarterbacks back-to-back in the 6th round. I mean, that was clearly a sign that they never had any intentions of signing Shedeur Sanders after meeting him. And, you know, he just didn't live up to what they were expecting from him. So that just tells you how the NFL tried really, and these teams tried really, really hard to give this guy a taste of his own medicine when it was all said and done.
Could he ultimately be selected by the Raiders? Sure. Yeah. I mean, any of these teams at this point, somebody could, because the value you would think would be there. But those are a ton of picks for a quarterback. This is the most important position in professional sports.
I like the point that he makes there. It's just like, you know, the whole thing about what he said about the value of the pick. Yeah, the Cleveland Browns got an excellent value for him because they didn't draft him highly in the 1st round. They drafted him later on. They didn't draft him in the 1st round where he has that 5th-year option to him. So, I mean, they don't have to worry about if he doesn't pan out in 4 years. You could just go ahead and toss him out there. But let's be honest here. I don't even know what Cleveland's plan overall going forward is. Like, because they drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. I don't think they ever intended on going after Shedeur Sanders after that because they already had, you know, they already have Kenny Pickett, they already have Joe Flacco, and they have Deshaun Watson, even though they've yet to release him from his contract. But, so yeah, I don't know what you're going to do in this situation here. You got 5 quarterbacks going into the preseason. Like, what do you do in this situation here? Do you see what Shedeur is like? There could be a possibility Shedeur Sanders does get picked up and put onto the final roster. That could probably happen, but I would have liked to have seen him succeed in somewhere else besides Cleveland. I don't really think Cleveland's going to do a good job of, you know, working with him and making him the superstar that he could eventually be. There was also some talks about, you know, well, could he return to college? And just like, and, you know, Mike Florio was the one who was really talking about, could Shedeur Sanders return to college after the NFL draft? And you can't really do that. Once you say you're declaring for the draft, that's it. You can't go back there. And then they were saying, like, oh, we'll get lawyers in here to do that. It's just like, no, that really isn't still going to work out. I think they were saying the same. He was saying the same thing about Quinn Ewers. It's just like, well, does he really want to go to Miami? It's just like, you can't just change the rules like that. Like, you can't change something that's been around for so many years at this point, for so many decades. It's just like, it just can't be done, no matter how big you think you are. But I think his family really Shedeur Sanders' family really screwed him and just got him over, make him seem like he was the answer for the NFL going forward. Like he was the future and all that, which he could very well end up being. But I think Deion really screwed the pooch on him big time. But you know, I'm not gonna say anything bad about Shedeur Sanders the person. I think he could be a really good quarterback. I think he'll have a successful career. I don't think he's going to have it in Cleveland. I really don't think Cleveland is going to do much for him. And, you know, I just feel like it's going to be like another Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel type of situation where they think they'll get him in, they'll get their franchise quarterback for the future, and everyone will be like, oh, all these teams are going to be proven wrong, and then they don't do anything, and they completely fall out of grace within the next couple of years. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he should have been falling as low as he did. Man, people online were really going at it with him. I mean, admittedly, yes, I did have a little fun with it, putting Deion and Shedeur in the scene from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Will Smith going like, how come you don't want me with Shedeur as Will and Deion as his father? But I didn't go as far as some people did. That's another thing that really irked a lot of people, was that one person, there was a lot of prank callers who were prank calling Shedeur Sanders, saying that they were specific teams. One person in particular, which we now know is the son of the Falcons defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, his son basically prank called him and said that he was the New Orleans Saints. And, you know, supposedly this happened to a couple other people too. They prank called Tyler Warren, and they just revealed the story today. Let me see if I can actually find it, because it was just a story they put out today, because we figured out who it was beforehand. I've got the story right here. The son of Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich admitted to a prank call made to Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft and apologized in an Instagram post today. The NFL is looking into the situation, specifically how Sanders' private number leaked, sources tell ESPN's Adam Schefter. The Falcons said in a statement Sunday that 21-year-old Jax Ulbrich wrote down the number for his father's open iPad while visiting his parents' home to later conduct a prank call. As Sanders continued to wait for his name to be called on day 2 of the draft Friday, a video surfaced on social media of the former Colorado quarterback receiving a call from someone impersonating New Orleans Saints general manager Mickey Loomis. The caller told Sanders, "We're going to take you with our next pick, man, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man. Sorry about that." A confused Sanders asked the crowd gathered for his draft party, "What does that mean?" Jax Ulbrich wrote in the post that what he did was completely inexcusable, embarrassing, and shameful. He said Sanders accepted his call earlier. "I'm so sorry I took away your moment. It was selfish and childish. I could never imagine getting ready to celebrate one of the greatest moments of your life, and I made a terrible mistake and messed with the moment. Thank you for accepting my call earlier today. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me." Which, let's just be honest here, he wasn't really sorry he did that. He was sorry he got caught. That's the thing that when you look at this is exactly the type of situation you look at, and it's just like, you're not sorry that you did this. You're sorry you got caught, and you did get caught almost immediately. Like, clout chasers, man. Clout chasing again. But at least Shedeur was at least saying that he wasn't bothered by the prank. And, you know, it says here in the article, it didn't really have an impact on me. This is Sanders saying this. Because I was just like, I mean, okay, like, I don't feed into negativity, or I don't feed into this stuff. You'd see it on Deion Sanders Jr.'s YouTube video, my reaction to it. I don't. It is what it is. I think, of course, it is childish. Of course, I feel like it was a childish act, but everyone does childish things here and there. And then it says here, new Indianapolis Colts tight end Tyler Warren also received a prank call before he was selected in the first round by Indianapolis. A league source told ESPN's Stephen Holder. Buffalo Bills 6th-round pick Chase Lunt, an offensive tackle, said in his introductory news conference that he received 4 or 5 prank calls during the draft. And it's just like, I mean, like, what am I supposed to say to that? It's just kind of like, do we really need to do this to these people on their draft night, especially with Shedeur Sanders? That's just cold, man. Like, you can't help but feel bad for the kid. I mean, it's not his fault that he's the reason why he fell. I think he was just put in a bad situation. His father thought he could control where he was going from this point. But, dude, you realize that you're not going to be coaching him next year. Like, it's going to be Kevin Stefanski doing this, assuming that he is still there. He is still there when the regular season begins. Sanders is. I don't know what they're going to do with him if it doesn't pan out, but the bottom line here is that I really wish him well. I really wish Shedeur Sanders well. I hope he does really well in the NFL. I just don't think it's going to be with Cleveland. I think it's going to be with somebody else who will take him under the wing. Because it feels like they should, like the Browns don't know how to handle success. I mean, look what happened with Baker Mayfield. They had something great, and then they just tossed him aside like a dumpster baby on a prom night. Like, I mean, I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that whole thing. We've kind of spent most of this episode talking about that because that was the biggest story of the draft, and it's a life lesson to not only Shedeur, the Sanders family, and pretty much everybody. It's just like you can't act like you're going to be better than everybody else when you have to play the rules and play the game like it usually is. You can't just do what you want to do and think that's going to be enough to get you where you want to go in life. Like, you have to follow the rules, and you have to play the game as it's played. Like, what did Herm Edwards always used to say? You play to win the game. That's the great thing about sports. So hopefully this was a life lesson to everyone involved in that, and I wish Shedeur Sanders the best of luck in the NFL. So let's go ahead and get to something else I want to bring up here, something that came out last week that I finally got to see, and I want to talk about it real quick. I'm going to move along from here, but there's one thing I forgot to mention in that thing I was talking about with Shedeur Sanders. You also have to remember that they didn't hire an agent for Shedeur Sanders. It was Dion who was doing the work for him, which is funny because Shiloh Sanders hired an agent, and yet he went undrafted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, yeah, really think about that. But anyway, enough with the NFL. Let's talk about Doctor Who, because this past week, Doctor Who aired another episode of the show, and I've never really talked about Doctor Who, mostly because I've never really gotten interested in it. Not because I hate it in any shape or form, but because mostly it's just never anything that really caught my eye in general. But this episode that aired this week on Disney Plus got a lot of people talking. It's the episode called Lux. And if you don't know about what this episode is, you have in the episode the 15th Doctor, played by Nchuchi Gatwa, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, and his companion Belinda Chara landing in 1952 Miami, Florida, while trying to make their way back to 2025. After doing so, they discover a mysterious cinema where 15 people have disappeared. The pair start to investigate and ultimately confront an animated god named Lux, played by Alan Cumming, who traps them in film. And he does this through the power of this cartoon character called Mr. Ring-a-Ding. And even if you've never seen Doctor Who like I have, this episode really caught my interest, mostly because of the fact that it's a live-action CG animated episode. But on top of that, it just looks really cool, man. And I watched it. I'm glad I did, because it was definitely worth the wait. I mean, just the idea of an animated hybrid episode of Doctor Who is already interesting enough, but just the way to introduce him in the show. I mean, Alan Cumming, it's finally nice to have Alan Cumming in a role where he's playing a scary villain, but he's not playing nightmare fuel like he's in the Flintstones of Viva Rock Vegas or Son of the Mask.
Get ready, because here I come. What's your name, sweetie pie?
They call me Sunshine Sally.
No, don't give me sunshine, because I'm more interested in moonlight. That icy cold beam of heaven, touching my soul and bringing me life. What do you think? I asked you, yes, you, sitting there drooling with your buckets of popped corn, caramel water. I asked you, what do you think?
This one's kind of silly, isn't it?
What do you say? I'm looking at you with the glasses. What did you say?
Who? Me?
Don't make me laugh. Yes, you.
Why are they doing this?
If you won't tell me, then I'll have to find out for myself. Get ready, because here I come. We're going 3D. And remember, whatever you do, don't make me laugh.
I mean, that's just great. Unfortunately, you can't see the clip but you can hear it. But I seriously look the clip up, because it actually is really well done. And I love the comment immediately after this that said, "My new headcanon is that one of the people in this theater was a young David Zaslav, and after surviving this ordeal, he would use this traumatic experience as a catalyst for his one-man war against the animation industry." Which, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense when you really think about it. But the episode overall is just great. The combination of animation and a live-action setting, like, from what I read, this is supposedly an animator who worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, if I'm not mistaken. But the concept of the episode alone is very interesting, and just the way that the animation just works so well, like, it's incredible how they were able to pull this off, man. This is a really, really impressive episode. I mean, just everything about it works. Alan Cumming as Mr. Ring-a-Ding, and also the character of Lux, just is so well done. And I really love the way the episode basically ends with... It doesn't end like a villain arc episode should. Like, it ends with... There's a part where, you know, the doctor and this assistant have to basically figure out how to fix... how to solve the problem here, and the way they do it is that, you know, they have to give him this sunlight and all this type of stuff, and I'm really mismanaging the whole idea of what the episode's conclusion is about, but you just really need to check it out for yourself, man. It's a great episode. I just want to be real quick on this one. Lux, an episode of Doctor Who. It's on Disney Plus. Definitely worth checking out. Even if you've never seen Doctor Who, it's definitely worth it just for that. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic I want to bring up. You know, honestly, I was going to do something else, but I figured let's just go to the last thing, because I'm not really up to talking about the training videos, at least this week. We'll save it for another week, but something I've been wanting to get to for a little bit now, the last couple of weeks, but just never really could. A new selection of poorly aged commercials is available on Microsoft Sam's YouTube channel, so, why don't we go ahead and take a look at them? We've got 9 minutes worth here, and we're starting off with a doozy. Poorly aged 70s commercials, beginning with a certain name you might be familiar with. Very familiar on this.
Sooner or later, you're going to try White Owl, and when you do, we got you.
Bill Cosby selling White Owl cigars and going on to do things unbecoming of a White Owl cigar spokesperson. That's what it says on the thing, on this, on the YouTube video here.
Maybe we'll get you with the Great White Owl flavor, or the mildness, or one of the Great White Owl shapes, like this, New Yorker.
It's filled with Jello pudding.
But we're going to get you. You know we're going to get you.
Not the words you want to hear out of Bill Cosby ever. Like, good Lord. I mean, yeah, the 70s were a much different time. Let's just say that.
It's only a matter of time, and we're going to get him, White Owl. We're going to get him.
If the cancer isn't going to kill you, Bill Cosby might, with his pills that he has.
We're going to get you.
Gee, Dad, you look terrific.
Thank you. Weight loss clinic?
You know, honey, it's really nice coming home to a slender wife again.
Thank you, Weight Loss Clinic.
Ugh. Some garden variety sexual harassment, which, yeah, that second one really was like, okay, we're stepping into some boundaries here.
Gee, Dad,
Outside of boundaries.
terrific.
Thank you. Weight loss clinic?
You know, honey, it's really nice coming home to a slender wife again.
Thank you, Weight Loss Clinic.
Thank you, Weight Loss Clinic.
Yeah, try catcalling nowadays, and that's not the reaction you're going to get there. That's what that guy was doing. The guy was walking down the street, and a woman came by, and he did a, you know, like I said, try doing that nowadays. See what happens.
You see squaws in Big Powwow?
Uh-oh.
They talk about big deal at Arrow Ford.
If Andrew Jackson directed a Ford commercial,
You buy a car or truck this month only, you get free 100 gallons of gas plus a $100 gift certificate from Penny's. Buy lots of beads. Or you can apply to purchase. You want to know how? Come with me to my teepee.
very poor choice of words there. Come with me to my teepee. This is not a good-looking commercial at all. This is like a really shoddy commercial.
100 gallons of gas plus a $100 gift certificate from Penny's. Buy lots of beads. Or you can apply to purchase. You want to know how? Come with me to my teepee. Just follow Arrow.
Yeah, needless to say, that video did not age well. Not the commercial, but the video itself did not age well. It really got, like, distorted at the end of the commercial. I could barely understand what she was saying.
If you're the type of girl that doesn't like being noticed, please don't wear our Sexy Legs pantyhose.
Hello, Sexy Legs.
The Sexy Legs Pantyhose Company went out of business due to no one not understanding their audience.
If you're in the least bit embarrassed about being admired, we honestly recommend you don't wear Sexy Legs.
Hello, Sexy Legs.
They got all these dudes looking like the dude at the end of the dudes at the end of Kentucky Fried Movie, watching the couple having sex on while they're on television. Like that's what it feels like watching it. But there it makes sense. This, like, you got all these different people here, all these guys here, just like, yeah, I can see why this company never went further than this commercial.
Because you're going to be noticed in Sexy Legs anti-static sheer-to-the-waist or regular brief pantyhose. Superb quality at a supermarket price.
Hello, Sexy Legs.
Had to pause the commercial, but O.J. Simpson for Foster Grant, which I think you can figure out what's wrong here. Foster Grant, obviously, not O.J. Simpson.
You know, I grew up in California, so naturally I got to know a little something about sunglasses. And that's why I wear polarized Foster Grants, especially when I drive, because nothing cuts through glare better than these. Of course, another reason I wear polarized Foster Grants is they look so good. And after all, when you're a star running back, you have to maintain a certain image.
And it'll look great when they're driving a white van in the middle of the California highway in 1994.
Wow-wee! Sorry.
If Andrew Jackson directed a chewing gum commercial. That's literally what it says here in the description.
CG, I didn't know the gum was loaded. You didn't know fresh enough to load it with extra flavor?
He didn't know the gum was loaded. No ordinary gums like this. He didn't know the gum was loaded. Incredible flavor you can't miss.
Didn't you know fresh enough takes flavor-packed gum and loads it with extra liquid flavor? Now I do.
Fresh enough, it's loaded with flavor.
I don't know who's more offensive. The guy in the Native American costume or everybody overacting their asses off. It's just like, whoa, over there, like.
Gum was loaded. You didn't know fresh enough to load it with extra flavor?
Can I overact any more than this? I think I'm more offensive to the audience than you are.
He didn't know the gum was loaded. No ordinary gums like this. He didn't know the gum was loaded. Incredible flavor you can't miss.
Didn't you know fresh enough takes flavor-packed gum and loads it with extra liquid flavor?
Why do I sound like Fred Flintstone now? Bonnie, where are you?
Now I do.
Fresh enough, it's loaded with flavor.
First, you said, hello, Sexy Legs. Hello,
oh, Sexy Legs again. Whoa. Okay, so the setup here is that this lady's getting off of a bus, and you have these guys looking at her, and the door closes, and apparently she covered her legs, but she couldn't she apparently wore her skirt the wrong way, because as soon as the doors closed, her panties started showing. And I love the description here at the bottom. Is it any wonder they went out of business? Not after seeing this instance.
It's loaded with flavor.
First, you said, hello, Sexy Legs. Hello, Sexy Legs. Now, say, hello, Sexy Legs. Hello, Sexy Legs.
Why are all these clothes ripping? We're in a grocery store now, and a woman's sundress bursted open, and then we can see the back of her panties again. It's just like, again, like, I don't think this company knew what the hell they were doing. It's just like, we just need an excuse so we can hang out with sexy women and say, hey there, sexy lady.
Sexy Legs pantyhose, now Sexy Legs. Top fashion liquors at supermarket prices. Hello, Sexy Legs.
That's sexual harassment right there. I mean, that's what happened was that you have these people walking on the sidewalk, and this lady's walking around. You know, they do the hello, sexy lady, and a motorcyclist just comes out of nowhere, rips her skirt off, and just like, yeah, that's sexual harassment there. She should be suing that guy's ass.
Sexy Legs pantyhose, now Sexy Legs. Top fashion liquors at supermarket prices. Hello, Sexy Legs.
And they got the priest involved in there, too. Alright, next commercial.
By now, you might be buying gasoline
The metric
by
system
the
did
liter.
not, in fact, become a
Hi, I'm
regular
Sandy
part of
Kenny, a
the
member
American
of the
life as
United
predicted.
States
So I guess this is a commercial for the metric system.
Might be buying gasoline by the liter. Hi, I'm Sandra Kenny, a member of the United States Metric Board. The metric system is becoming part of our lives more and more these days, including the gasoline we buy.
No, it isn't. No, it wasn't. Do you know anybody that still uses the metric system? Yeah, don't even say it is.
And many service stations have already converted their pumps to dispense gas by the liter. You'll notice there's no more half pricing either. The full amount you see in the pump window is the full amount you pay. If you're like me, you usually fill it up or ask for gas by dollar amount. And with liters, you still get the same amount of gas for the same dollars. If you'd like to know how to figure your car's mileage using liters, the United States Metric Board can really help. Write to us with your questions or your opinions about metrics. The address is the Metric Board, Box 7700, Washington, D.C. 20044.
Another underwear commercial here. Ladies don't buy Hanes based on what gentlemen prefer.
The glow of Broadway lights, you'll find there's magic in the night. Gentlemen prefer Hanes. When you're dressed in fancy clothes, you want a special pantyhose. Gentlemen prefer Hanes. Hanes will make you smooth and silky, shapely, sexy. Heads will turn, you know it's true.
Does she even look like she's wearing pantyhose? And like it says right here, like, gentlemen don't care about what you're wearing under, is what kind of pantyhose you're wearing. They care about what's underneath the dress. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
I can't help but notice you.
Hanes pantyhose, ultra sheer, and now understatement too.
The name of the game is Ball Buster.
Ah, classic. Ball Buster.
It's a family game, fun for children. And for adults, it's exciting.
It's exciting because we add sexual favors in it. Like, why does this guy sound like a creepy predator or something like that? Like, it really sounds like he's the type of person to be like, hey kids, always want to come to my van? We'll play some ball, but we'll do some ball busting. Oh, do you have the game? Yes.
You make strategic offensive and defensive moves. Then try to bust your opponent's balls.
Okay. That's the moment that you know that they knew exactly what the hell they were doing. But just in case you didn't get a good idea, maybe you're one of those people that are so dense that you can't figure it out, surely the end of this commercial will be a definite indication that they know exactly what the hell they're doing.
It's as easy as checkers. But exacting like pool. You're a ball.
That wink at the end from her is just like, yeah, we know exactly what you're doing. She's even giving me this look right now, just like, yeah, you know exactly what this is, motherfucker. Like, they knew exactly what this is, but a classic commercial regardless, so.
Ball Buster, a great new game from Mego.
Well, I'm afraid we'll have to call the garage, Mrs. Olson.
Oh, thank you so much. I hate to be such a bother.
No bother at all.
Well, while we're all waiting, I'll make some coffee.
Don't you think she's got enough trouble?
Oh, I wish I could make coffee he likes.
I find you have to start with the right coffee. So I always use Folgers.
All coffee's the same, Mrs. Olson.
Oh, no. Different coffees taste different. And I think Folgers tastes best.
Why is Folgers so different?
It's specially blended.
Joe ought to like this.
Hey, that great smell coming from your coffee pot?
Uh-huh.
That's good coffee. There's one more problem. We're going to have to get a bigger pot.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, that doesn't seem like a bad commercial overall, but then you look at the description, and it says, actor Stephen Collins confesses to sexual abuse of minors, plus some casual misogyny thrown in for good measure. So I didn't know that was Stephen Collins from Seventh Heaven. Of course, he had sexual abuse of minors, and his career's pretty much over and done with. So,
Folgers, mountain-grown coffee. You'll like the flavor.
I'm here to tell you the story of how Red Pop began. A long time ago, our tribe was hot
Jimmy
and
Farr,
thirsty, and the
as a
great
Native
spirit
American.
Vago appeared and said, "Here's a thirst-quenching, great-tasting soft drink just for you, and I call it Red Pop. You can share it with the early settlers when they come to America. It will give them something to give thanks for. And you, running pudgy, be thankful for Diet Fago."
Oh, I am, Chief. I am.
I was new in town, and I didn't know anybody. Until Fran dropped by. I wanted to make a good impression. So, my coffee was important. Maxwell House coffee. People like Maxwell House. It's the taste that brings people together. I feel so at home here now. I guess that's why I'll always be a Maxwell housewife.
Maxwell House Coffee. The taste that brings people together.
alright, let's see what the description says. Husbands can make crappy coffee too. Okay, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I have to listen to it again.
And I didn't know any.
Be thankful for Diet Fago.
Oh, I am, Chief. I am.
I was new in town, and I didn't know anybody. Until Fran dropped by. I wanted to make a good impression. So, my coffee was important. Maxwell House coffee. People like Maxwell House. It's the taste that brings people together. I feel so at home here now. I guess that's why I'll always be a Maxwell housewife.
Maxwell House Coffee.
Yeah, I don't know about that one either. I don't know why that's poorly aged.
The taste that brings people together.
American womanhood is good, and we'll never stray away from good American womanhood. We don't want to vote. Women shouldn't vote. We don't want to smoke. Women shouldn't smoke. We don't want to do what our husbands tell us to do.
Feminism to sell cigarettes to women was quite a choice.
We don't want to smoke. No.
So yeah, you got all these women in these, like, debutante dresses, and they're all just singing along. And if you listen closely, you can hear them talking about what they don't want their husbands to know about them. In fact, they smoke.
Is good, and we'll never stray away from good American womanhood. We don't want to vote. Women shouldn't vote. We don't want to smoke.
Oh, I didn't even hear that part. Listen closely.
American womanhood. We don't want to vote. Women shouldn't vote.
We don't want to vote. Women shouldn't vote. Gee, I wonder if a guy wrote this.
We don't want to smoke. Women shouldn't smoke.
We don't want to smoke when we shouldn't smoke. That's what the commercial's for.
We don't want to do what our husbands tell us to do.
Have our husbands tell us what to do.
We don't want to smoke. No, 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 no. American womanhood is good. You've come a long way, baby, to get where you got to today.
Virginia Slim.
Oh, okay, this makes sense now. This is a long commercial, but it's notable because it's the last cigarette commercial shown on television at 11:50 on January 1st, 1971, and it's important because it was part of the whole. Like, there was a whole thing about this commercial aired because this was just before the implementation of the Public Health Cigarette Smoking Act, which prohibited the radio and television advertising of all cigarettes in the United States. So that's why this commercial is so important. And you hear it's for Virginia Slims, and you hear the slogan, "You've come a long way, baby." I was wondering why this was a long commercial, but this makes more sense now.
You've come a long way, baby, to get where you got to today.
Virginia Slims. This is the taste for today's woman. With rich Virginia flavor you like. Tailored slim for your hands, for your lips. Virginia Slims.
You got Virginia Slims now, baby. You've come a long, long way.
Yeah, that's it. That's all the commercials there. So that was a little bit of an interesting way to end this up here. none of these commercials really were that bad, except for the two that I thought really were like ones that were like, okay, you're pushing your luck here. The Bill Cosby one about, you know, the White Out cigarettes and saying, we're gonna get you. And what was the other one? The Sexy Lakes commercials. The Sexy Lakes commercials. Those three in particular was the ones that really stuck out to me the most. So anyway, that's that. Let's go ahead and take a look at some recommendations for the week, and then we can get on out of here. Of course, the big new release coming out this week is this year's Best Picture winner, Honora. It comes out on Criterion Collection, so that is definitely one I'm going to get my hands on, along with Paddington in Peru, which comes out on Blu-ray this week for the first time. Some other notable titles this week: Last Breath, the Woody Harrelson Simu Liu movie that came out in late February. Just kind of curious about that one, but never really got around to checking it out. This is one I would tell you to stay away from: Star Trek Section 31, which comes out on Steelbook and Blu-ray, even though you can watch it now on Paramount+. Rick and Morty, the anime, is coming out this week. Catalog title-wise, Plane is coming out in 4K. Detective Pikachu has a nice-looking Steelbook coming. Some new Criterions also include Basquiat from 1996. Let's see. Time Cop comes out on 4K from Shout Factory. Some Clint Eastwood movies are coming out on 4K. Pale Rider, The Outlaw Josie Wales, Dirty Harry. Stripes is getting a 4K Steelbook. So is Gandhi. So there are some good catalog titles coming out this week, but the big ones for me this week are going to be Honora and also Paddington in Peru. Those are the big ones I'm definitely looking forward to get my hands on at some point this week. So with all that said, that's going to wrap this episode up of the Reviewing Network Live. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, check out the last episode I did. Check out the playlist to see the other episodes. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, and notification button. And I'll see you guys next week with another episode of this show. We have videos coming up here every day here on this channel as well as on the main channel. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And until then, we are out.